huge numbers now of these artificial sweeteners, which we also know affect our microbiome.
What is a better alternative that's popular on the market than, because it appears to me that all of the drinks in the supermarket have artificial sweeteners and flavourings.
They do because of the sugar tax, so it's almost impossible now to buy fizzy tax without sweeteners, to buy fizzy drinks without sweeteners. But so for kids, I try and not give any advice to anyone ever, but my kids eat a lot of UPF, but they don't have fizzy drinks. I think fizzy drinks are really quite harmful across the board. So kids should just drink milk and water, milk if they can have it. And grown-ups can do pretty well on milk and water if you drink milk.
Right. Cheerios and things like that.
So breakfast cereals are really convenient with these Cheerios. So I think these probably do meet the these do meet the definition. They are, yeah. So we've got things like palm oil, caramelized sugar syrup, colours, and that are got bits in, antioxidants. So this is ultra processed. It'll have some fibre. You'll have it with whole milk. I don't want to demonise breakfast cereals. My kids eat breakfast cereals for breakfast, but it's not like eating porridge, which is just whole grains or real bread. This is, and what you will find is if you give this to a kid compared to porridges, they will be able to eat much more of this. And there's a lot of marketing that this is a really healthy product, and I would say the evidence says that this falls into a category of foods that we actually know are associated with negative health outcomes.
This is on the side there, isn't it? A list of all the health benefits.
A really good way of telling if a food is ultra processed is if there is any health claim on the packet, it's almost certainly ultra processed. And part of that is to do with this intellectual property thing, that the only food you can make lots of money out of is a branded product. So there's no money in broccoli, milk, steak, eggs. Supermarkets quite often make losses on all those things. There's no health claim on broccoli, or on plants, or on milk. There's no health claim on steak. It's only the ultra processed things that you get marketed to you in this way because there's enough money to do it. The Actimel's interesting as well, the immune support.
Well, it says immune support and it says vitamin D and B6. So that, rich in vitamin D, immune support, that is definitely healthy.
I mean, this is where we should have done the maths and shown how much sugar there was in each pot. These are very high calorie shots of sugary liquid that will harm teeth, and I don't know why you'd have this if you could just have real yogurt or milk. And the reason they back add the vitamins is to be able to make health claims. So generally foods with added vitamins, real food doesn't need added vitamins. And we're pretty sure that, and I'm conscious who I'm talking to here. I probably have to tread a bit carefully. Supplementing vitamins into food doesn't seem to have many health benefits for healthy people. So we've got quite a lot of very big data on this. And there are lots of studies that show benefits that are funded by vitamins, but broadly, the independent evidence shows that when you get vitamins and minerals in the context of food, they're really good for you. And when you take them in pill or supplement form, they don't seem to have many benefits if you are healthy.
And this food here, this bottle of Coke, I've got a can of Pringles and Cocoa Pops covered cereal. This is the stuff that I typically think of as like bad processed, ultra processed, stay away from.
You would, but give me the Cocoa Pops. So the Cocoa Pops, we look at these traffic lights, okay? Green, orange. Pretty healthy. I mean, there's a monkey on the pack selling it to my kids.
Yeah,
right?
It's high in vitamin
Fiber,
vitamin D, iron.
yeah, iron, supporting your family's health, right? Thank goodness. I mean, everything about this tells you that this is a product not just safe for kids, but intended for kids. And we all know you actually can't sell things if they're not healthy. There must be some regulator dealing with that. And this is the thing that my 6-year-old will eat 5 adult portions. So when you only 5-hour portions. The traffic lights only apply to a 30-gram serving for you. Now, a 30-gram serving is a handful like that. It's one big spoonful. Okay, so this is the product that I recognise addictive behaviour in my kids, and frankly myself. I mean, I could eat 300 grams.
And the other thing that I went and got from the supermarket, because I was thinking about what I typically think as ultra processed and good for me, I went and got this frozen pizza here, and then I went and got a Tesco's finest. This is high end, much more expensive, not frozen pizza. I thought surely this pizza here is a lot better for me than this one here.
So again, there's a complexity talking about is one better than the other, because we've never done a trial, we've been testing them against each other. They're both ultra processed. I know because I looked at the ingredients. They both contain ingredients that you don't have in the domestic kitchen, like palm fat and dextrose. And they're both made really, in a sense, by the same company. So they're both made by PLCs who will be owned by institutional investors with requirements for growth. So they come from the same food system with the same incentives about production. And my bet is that you or I would be able to eat the entire pizza as a single sitting, and we'd be still licking the pack of both. So this is food that, in a sense, is engineered to be consumed to excess.
You did an experiment, didn't you? Quite a famous experiment now, where you put yourself on an ultra-processed food diet. Can you tell me about that experiment and the symptoms that you saw when you lived off ultra-processed food pretty much exclusively?
So I ate a diet that's very normal for a British teenager. I eat 80% of my calories from ultra-processed food. So for a teenager, like in school, for example, this would be a completely normal thing to do. 1 in 5 people in this country get 80% of their calories from UPF. So I wasn't really putting my body on the line. I was switching from 20% to 80%. Kind of two really big things happened. There was some health effects. So in terms of the physical effects on my body, I gained so much weight, and it wasn't supersized. I wasn't forcing it. This was done as part of a scientific experiment for a big study that I'm now running at University College London, where I work as an academic. I gained so much weight that if I continued for a year, I would have doubled my body weight. We scanned my brain before and after. I worked with colleagues at the National Hospital for Neurology and Neuroscience, neurology and neurosurgery. So these were scans done very expertly. And while I'm only one patient, you can subtract the noise. You can be very sure that what you see is real. We saw enormous increases in connectivity between the automatic behavior habit bits at the back of the brain and those reward addiction bits right in the middle of the brain. So we can't exactly say what's happening, but certainly behaviors and rewards get much more connected. Most significantly, I think, we saw a change in my hormonal response. So when you eat real food, whilst you're eating it, chewing, all kinds of hormonal neurological changes happen in your body that will come to a point they'll say that you've had enough. You're fine, you can stop eating it. Well, that's called satiety, and we've evolved this mechanism since living things first started eating food hundreds of millions of years ago. And all animals have it, humans have it. What we saw is that at the end of a standard meal, at the end of this month, my hunger hormones remain sky high. So this is food that is interfering with our body's evolved mechanisms to say, I'm done, it's time to stop it. But there was this other thing that happened, and it's the most important thing, and it's the core of the book, is that midway through this diet, which I was quite enjoying, if you're sort of middle-aged man, the quest is always to lose weight, and I could go back to eating the foods of my childhood, I was eating whole grains, all this stuff that I hadn't eaten for years. I was really enjoying it, but I was also doing all this research, partly for the book. As a scientist, I study nutrition, and I was talking to a colleague in Brazil called Fernanda Rao, and she just kept saying, this isn't food, Chris, it's an industrially produced edible substance. And I sat down that evening to eat a meal of takeaway fried chicken, and I could hardly finish it. And she had flipped this switch in my brain where all of this ultra-processed food had become disgusting. And I then had to keep eating it for another fortnight. And so it was a bit like the very famous book, The Easy Way to Quit Smoking, where you smoke all the way through reading the book while you learn about smoking. And by the end of the diet, I now don't want to eat any ultra-processed products. So the gift I'm trying to give the reader is, if you're living with addiction, my invitation at the beginning is, eat along, eat while you read. Don't forbid this stuff yourself. Let yourself wallow in it, immerse it, taste it. And you'll start to read the ingredients lists while you eat. You'll realise that all the food it has the same flavour profile. It's all equally salty and sugary and sweet. It's all acidic. And you will gradually become disgusted. But that's not promise. That seems to be what's happening to a lot of people. And that is a very well evidenced technique when it comes to living with addiction. So the World Health Organization, who I work with,
interesting point.
Smoking for quitting smoking as being as useful as patches or any other technique. So for the individual, treating it as an addictive substance may be really useful for some people.
What was the impact on your sort of mental health and how you felt from a sort of psychology perspective? So, we've seen this huge rise in sort of mental health diagnoses across the board, especially in younger people, but it seems to be pretty consistent throughout different ages and demographics. I wonder if there's a link between ultra-processed foods and mental health crises that we're living through.
We've got really good epidemiological data, so we now have hundreds of prospective studies. The kind of studies we use to link smoking to cancer, that it is not just associated with physical ill health, metabolic disease, inflammatory disease, cardiovascular disease, cancers, early death. It's also associated with anxiety, depression, and also dementia.
Alors, Apostle, LBD. Yeah.
Oh,
what's going on?
I received an email with this technology stuff, which is showing the mind is not really.
Do you want to send it to me and I can have a look?
It should be on my.
Is it a grant?
It is not a grant, but you will know the system, but it has to be on mine.
Let me focus for another extra hour because I'm getting things done. Yeah?
Okay.
Thank you. That's from your phone. No, my guy. One thing I did struggle with before, and I'll be in this moment here. I'm only thinking, like, normally you just give up. You're just like, yeah, cool. Still, and you want to go do something else. It's okay to think, because you're feeling calm. Wow. Bad tonalities. Where's all my friends on this chat roll? Oh, wait, should I share it? Let me share it. Sometimes I feel like I don't really want baby, you'll find the word. Come on, baby, and you should have grasped the flow. Baby, you'll find the world. Come on, baby, you'll catch the daily streams. I'm only going to stream every day. I feel this is so awkward. How do people just talk to themselves? I do that anyway, but doing it on public is weird. Like, this is weird. Yeah, I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna share it. Got on sharing now. Gotta feed it right. Cashiering now. Why can't I hear myself? Oh yeah, it's Leicester, man. Leicester, man. Leicester, man.
My experience being on the Times was that there was a thing that I think the research doesn't capture, which is because it's salty. I was getting up to pee more at night, and I was getting really constipated and uncomfortable because it's quite low in fire. And so I got in this vicious cycle of sleeplessness, and I'd often find myself where at the fridge it would come small hours in the morning, and the food felt like the solution to the problem. So I got in this spiral of sleeplessness, anxiety, overeating. We know that stress and elevated cortisol also generally increases your desire for low quality food, makes people overeat. So in a way, that kind of middle-aged stress, anxiety, this sort of mild mental health symptoms that so many people live with, often it is just driven by the food.
I read this stat in your book that according to the World Obesity Federation, 51% of the world, or more than 4 billion people, will be obese or overweight within the next 12 years.
So I like to say they will live with obesity rather than use obese as an adjective, because I think the biggest
Remigrate.
is that being obese is your identity. And what we actually know is that the World Obesity Federation are doing some really good work identifying this as the major public health problem. The technicians talking about this, it's really hard to say that obesity is a problem without also saying that people who live with it are the problem. If you're not careful, a war on obesity becomes a war on people who live with it. And I think the evidence here is just about the environment. So, yes, you can make these very powerful economic arguments that we simply cannot afford to have a food system that's driving this rate of disease. I think the moral arguments are much more powerful, that this is stuff that causes human suffering. So I would not actually tax ultra-processed food. I certainly wouldn't ban it. I think all my arguments are about increasing freedom, increasing choice, increasing opportunity. And that's quite conscious. I mean, you know this as a skillful communicator. You talk about kind of doing exactly this in your book, where I'm trying to make an argument that will appeal to the political right that are much more on the side of free market, no regulation. In fact, we can have regulations completely compatible with huge economic growth. And what I'm asking for is a food system where people with low incomes have access to healthy, affordable food.
Because a lot of people would say, this is sort of part 2 of your book, that, okay, so the solution here is really just for people to make better choices when they're, I don't know, in their fridges or when they're walking through a supermarket. Why don't we just all make better choices?
You may have a much more profound, I think you're asking this question in a provocative way. I think you will understand it much better than me. I've always had choice. And so when I choose to buy things like that are unhealthy, it is with a degree of choice. I do, my patient, I run a clinic in the hospital for tropical disease where I work, and most of my patients have no addresses. They're very disadvantaged. They're migrants and asylum seekers. They come from very low income families because those are people who get it. Now, when I say to them, go and eat some healthy food, they all know what healthy food is. They've often got very, very diverse communities. They've often got very rich traditions of healthy food from the communities and the cultures they come from. They are completely unable to buy. In the case of the asylum seekers, there are £8 a day they can't buy. You can't say to them, spend your £8 a day on apples and broccoli, and they haven't got knives and plastic. And we know 1 million households in this country don't have fridges, freezers, stovetop cookers. So there are a huge number of families that only have a microwave. And fresh food, while there is always a politician willing to advance this argument, you can buy a bag of lentils. If you go to the cash and carry, you can buy rice or lentils for, a couple of quid for 10 kilos. It costs money to heat it. It costs time. Time is the most expensive thing for people with low income. They need pots, pans, cutting boards, knives, Tupperware. If you're going to batch cook, which is the only way to make home cooking economical, but decrease the storage. So saying to people with low incomes, make healthier choices is nonsense. And so I feel very strongly that the world does not need another person like me saying that. In fact, no one. But people hate being told what to do.
There was a study
being told what to do.
Quite illuminating, where they choose their own food from selection and unprocessed food, and the children instinctively chose their own diet, which met their nutritional needs and calorie intake. What was that experiment, and what does that indicate to us about the nature of this argument, as it relates to just being able to control what we eat and choose what we want?
If we look at the animal kingdom, even if you look at something you might think has quite a simple diet, like a big herbivore living in, anything big herbivores living on anything plants, you think, well, they just eat grass. They don't. We've done loads of experiments where you put something on the cup, you put a hole in the neck of the animal, you put a bag on the hole to collect the plants they're eating. You can do this in a way that's relatively humane. And what we discovered is if we study goats or cows, they're eating 50 or 60 different plants a day. Calories are abundant. And what those animals are doing is balancing all their nutritional needs from all those different plants and selecting them and learning about the flavor profile, mineral content. They're moving to avoid predators in the rains, different soils. Animals are incredibly sophisticated at perfectly balancing their nutritional needs from their environment. And obesity is non-existent in the wild animal kingdom. In urban animals, actually, can start to scavenge from humans. There is some evidence of obesity, but in wild animals, there is no evidence. Humans, it turns out, obviously have the same ability. So a scientist called Clara Davis, who's amazing woman. She was a gay woman, one of the first medical graduates in North America, and she did this experiment where she was taking abandoned kids in detention, functioning almost like an orphan. And each child got access to 34 different whole foods every single day. And it was things like there's raw bone marrow and cooked rice, yogurt, milk. as much or as little salt as they wanted. And her question was, could the kids balance their nutritional needs? And the best example is a kid called Earl, who she took in a few months old, and he came in with rickets, so he had very bad vitamin D deficiency and bendy bones. They did some x-rays, so you could see the rickets on the x-rays. And every single day, he would glug an entire cup of cod liver oil, which at the time was one of the only source of vitamin D. He'd drink this every single day, enthusiastically, he always wanted his cod liver oil. And on the day his rickets were healed and you couldn't see them anymore on the x-rays, he stopped drinking cod liver oil, never asked for it again, and none of the kids without vitamin D deficiency would drink or touch the cod liver oil. So something in Earl's body was saying, I will, when I need this stuff, I'll have it. Once I don't need it anymore, I won't have it. And all the kids that she studied over many, many years with access to a full range of food, perfectly matched all their nutritional needs. They all grew really well, they were intellectually well developed, they're extremely healthy. They didn't have any of the sort of food refusal problems that parents have now.
Intellectual,
and she knew very well that the point was that kids only had access to good food. She wasn't giving them access to industrially processed junk foods, which were still slightly available. It was a really cool program.
For me, I take away from that our bodies can kind of self-regulate what we need if they're in an environment where the options aren't good. So if I'm a parent, and I'm sure I'll be a parent in the next couple of years, I hope so, if I just make sure in my house all the food options are good for my kids, whole foods, all the good stuff you've described, presumably then I can just unlock the cupboards and let them run free.
I love talking to people who might become parents about what they think. I mean, I'm like, wow. Yeah, good luck to you. Can we have this conversation again in about 6 years?
Can you tell me one?
Well, you're not wrong. You're completely right. It will be impossible for you to limit the influx of processed food. So clearly, I've written a book on this. I've studied this. I would love to do that. I want my kids to be normal. Being normal is really important as a kid. And food isn't just stuff we put in to build our bodies. Food binds us, people around us. Food is part of our community and our culture. In the UK, our food culture is ultra-processed food. If you don't eat and drink ultra-processed food, you become a slightly odd person. And so I still eat it when I go to friends' houses because otherwise I look like some, fanatical food snob. So, and it's the same with my kids. So grandparents, friends, relatives, all bring them around, you don't control what they eat at school. My youngest one's a really nice nursery food. It's still ultra-processed food from the minute she gets there to when she eats. So, very good luck to you. But this is why I argue. I nod to, if an individual wants to read my book, I think they will come away with technical knowledge that they will be able to use. And I wish them well with that. The big argument of the book is about this is about social justice. It is really appalling that even for people with a lot of means, real food is incredibly affordable and unavailable.
As you guys may know, this podcast is sponsored by one of my favourite brands in the world, which is food. AI is a topic I've spoken about various times on this podcast, and it's a topic that I'm pretty obsessed with, but we don't often talk about how it can be used as a force to make our lives even better. Luke is using the power of AI to drive meaningful, positive change. My mom,
You have two very, very big problems with that.
The fitness community, a lot of the weight loss community just say what you've got to do. We've actually got a friend that said this to me quite passionately. He said, what I do is I just measure the amount of calories I'm taking in, measure the calories that are coming out, and I make sure that there's a calorie deficit. And if you have a calorie deficit, you actually every day. He goes, you can eat whatever you want, and you'll be fine.
Mathematically, he's not entirely wrong. There are two very, very big problems with that. The first is that while some people can just eat to instructions, many of us have genes that lead us to engage with food in a more interesting way. I care about food, I love food, I'm driven to it. So your friend should come around my house in the morning with a box of Coca Pops and try and get my daughter to eat one adult portion. And good luck to him. They'll be screaming and crying and she'll be grabbing the box. So the food, it's a bit like saying to smokers, all you have to do is just smoke one cigarette. Don't smoke the whole just have one drink and that won't do you any harm. The food really is addictive for many people. But there is this other bit of the equation which is really fascinating, which is that when we do more activity of the kind that most of us do, it doesn't seem to have an enormous impact on the calories that we burn. And this is very good, robust science going back to the 90s. The most, if I tell this as a story, which is the way you do it, there was a scientist called Herman Poncer, and he wanted to know how many more calories he'd burn if he went and lived as a hunter-gatherer with the Hadza tribe in Tanzania. So he went and studied them. He used a thing called double-labeled water, where you could measure very accurately calorie expenditure. He put them in metabolic hoods. He studied them for months and months. And he came back and he looked at his data, and he thought he got it all wrong, because the data showed that for essentially, if you or I went and lived in Tanzania, we walked 50 kilometers a day hunting antelope, digging tubers out of the ground.
Ooh. Paris Saint-Germain. So what about this part? All I don't want to do is post something. Now I'm still here. International Patata. Pasta Freights. Okay, we can pay 16. So, a new funding program to support Black and global majority-led charities. Just scale this thing, climate poverty and remediation. That's a good name. Okay, so the Thinkeur preliminary structure. Okay, so this one can just be parked for now. This one can just need to do the research side of things. This one is done. Just seal it. Just seal it, man. Just seal it, bro. I say seal it, man. international DNA. International. Get it. Okay, now we're gonna do ChatGPT. Now, 'cause I yourself. Look at you. International filmmaker up in the mountain. What happened here, mate? International flagrant.
Well, with funding, just the noise. So then you went back and looked at all the data available in the literature, animals, human populations, studied subsistence farmers compared to secretarial workers in the state, miners, the same things you do. You do sustained activity over a long period, it doesn't massively impact. Now, there's an exception. You do polar exploration, cycling, if you go to the gym for an hour and a half every day, you probably do that. But activity is the kind of thing. And that explains why exercise is good for us. Because if you don't do exercise, I've done 3,000 calories a day, right? Let's say it's like body composition, but roughly you and I have done 3,000 calories. You do your hour and a half of exercise, you're stealing energy from your other functions. You're taking it away from inflammation, away from hormones, and away from exercise. That's why exercise is good for us. Because I'm sitting here, I'm registered sedentary my so I spend my time on this mental exercise.
And is this what we call the fixed energy model? I read that term.
Yeah, so that's the model, and there are lots of exceptions. But what that model tells us, along with all the other available data, when we are talking about populations who live in obesity, increasing activity will be really good for them, but it will not have significant impact. So when we talk about pandemic obesity, activity is important. And if people are listening, they want to lose weight. Many people have the experience that putting a healthy diet in the context of lots of other healthy things is often a really good way of bringing about behavioral change and feel good in other ways. But the activity, the exercise, you think putting in your smog at the gym every day, most of the time, every other hot night, it's not going to have an impact. Even if we accepted that if we did that the increase of number of calories you burn, there's other evidence that says your body isn't just a machine, your friend. But also, just if you add up the calories, you go to the gym for half an hour, 4 times a week, calories. Even if you're cycling time.
I can definitely relate. I work out every day just because I detect.
Yeah, but you can say the same thing.
I haven't eaten every single day. And the reason I do that is purely because I am best disciplined when I have a clear routine. So knowing that it's part of my habit, and it's actually today, it's in my calendar, yesterday it's in my calendar, even how I have lunch in my calendar now. I have to do a routine with my eating. I was just working on Friday, right? My first meal was at 6 p.m. because I was podcasting and stuff at the BBC. I don't want to do, I want to eat before I stuff. My point here though is, with my personal training every day, if I had changed my diet, very little happens to my body. Actually, I think very good muscles, I think get stronger. But in terms of weight loss, the fact is that interestingly, from a psychology perspective, I've spoken to a lot of scientists and doctors who have said your body will basically compensate for what you just burn. Right? Go for a 5 or 10 mile run, your body will defend its weight, in fact, defending its survival chances. For me, one of the things that happens is if I go and work out in the gym, because it's also painful, I'll then come home and look at the fat jack on the cookie whatever, and I'll think, that's too backwards.
That's interesting. Where some people will come have a look at the fat jack and go,
But But to counteract my point, that also happens sometimes. I go, well, I can have it, pretend it's brand or whatever. What I might do is I might avoid the flat chat, the obviously bad thing, but then I might eat more of something that I think is bad.
You'll have such a nutritional bar or something that is salty that you can hard for that.
Yeah, and I'll eat 4 of those.
But when you speak, what the really is, when you speak to nutritionists, I suppose the public work really sort of, those athletes get, that they have chefs, they might make quite an elaborate blackjack.
You flipping dropped, man. You flipping dropped, man. Okay. 2 minutes. Okay. That's enough for today. Just every day, mate, just put it up. Someone might join and give me some feedback, and it'd be good to have some feedback and just be like, yo, this is what we would like to see, and this is what we will give. I don't have a crackhead on this shit. Peace out, Thinkeur out.